I received a phone call the other day from a colleague who I really consider to be the embodiment of the American dream. He's somebody who came to the US from Africa, joined the Marine Corps, served honorably for several years and several tours of duty in Iraq, and then became a citizen. So when I receive a phone call from this colleague of mine, I know that it's going to be interesting because he is someone who just is a connector. He is not only connected himself, but it just has a knack for connecting people who have specific challenges with people who can help them address those challenges. So when he called me up, he said, "Anthony, I have a problem. I have a colleague who has worked for multinational corporations for years. He is very well respected in his field. And he's getting to the point where he wants to start certifying other people in what he does, in the process that he does to help make these organizations more efficient and more effective." And so I said, "Well, let's talk about that. Let's see what you have. Let me ask you something though. Why do you think you have a problem with the certification?" And he went on to explain that they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what was involved in getting a certification. So I went into telling a story and I said, "It may be that there's a challenge here, but let me explain what I want to describe to you about a certification by talking about you came to me and you said you had a problem. Well, let's see what type of problem that you have." So I explained to him that in where I come from, a problem is a deviation from a baseline that happens at a specific point in time for an unknown reason, and it's something that we care about. So I gave him the example of rifle marksmanship in the Marine Corps. And I said, let's say that you have a cadre that is, last week, they were able to make all their targets. And somehow this week, they weren't able to make their targets. Well, you have a legitimate problem because you have a deviation from baseline. You have all of these Marines who aren't able to hit the target they were last week. You don't know why that is, and that's something that's really important to you. So by definition, we know that the problem can't have occurred over here because that's in the future. We also know that the problem could not have occurred in the past when they were able to hit those targets and be on baseline. So you know that the problem had to occur somewhere in this period of time, and that will allow you to go in and examine and see what the problem is. Let's contrast that, I said, with another scenario where you have another group of Marines who have never been able to hit the target. Now, in that instance, you don't have a problem. You need to develop a new capability in those Marines. And with that, a light went on and he said, "Okay, we don't have a problem. We need to develop a new capability." To which I responded and I said, "Okay, well, with this certification, are you selling a permission or are you selling a transformation?" Now, a permission is if someone wants to go and do something that they need to be certified by a state, by an organization, something of that nature. For example, if someone wants to become an emergency medical technician, they need to get a certification so that that certification is recognized by the state that they live in, and they can practice as an EMT. They can work as an EMT. Now, that is complex. That has a lot of requirements that are outside of just the skill that you want to impart. On the other side, we have a transformation. And in a transformation, things are very different because in a transformation, people are not buying a curriculum. People are buying the ability for you to get them from where they are now, where they don't have that capability, to where they want to be. And the reason that they want that capability, the reason that they want you to bridge that gap for them falls into one of two categories. Number one, either because they have a fear or a pain point over not being able to do that, or number two, because they have an aspiration. They can't do this. They want to be able to do this, and they aspire to do that. It falls into one of those two categories. And so when you develop a transformational certification, and once again, you can still, if this is an internal certification, you can still have various levels of this certification, whereas when someone passes the first level, they have to pass that in order to be able to study for the second level and sit for the course for the second level. But when you sell a transformation, the mistake that a lot of people make is they look at their curriculum, they look at the processes that they want people to go to, and they sell that, instead of looking at it from the perspective of either the pain points or fear of the client or the potential aspirations that they want to achieve, and then doing a mapping or a crosswalk from the curriculum to what's important to the client or the customer. So I hope that this is useful. And the thing that I can acknowledge is that you're probably hearing this and you're probably saying, this is way too easy. This is way too straightforward. There are several steps missing here. And I want to tell you that if you are going after a transformational certification, in today's day and age, what is not missing is information. Information is ubiquitous. Information is everywhere. What people are starving for today is not information, it is examples. What people are starving for today is help with implementation. So in the crosswalk, in the mapping that you have from your curriculum to what the pain points or aspirations of your client or customer are, also describe in there how you can help with implementation or deployment of that particular step. And so each module in your certification should have a tangible outcome, a tangible, I can't do this at the beginning, I can do this at the end. And that's what's needed to develop a certification, with a major goal at the end of, you couldn't do this at the beginning, now you can do this at the end. Here's why that is either going to help alleviate a pain point for you or help you achieve something that you aspire to. So with that being said, there's a couple more things that you want to know about. The other thing is, how are you going to deploy this? How are you going to market this? How are you going to get this out there? And I'm going to provide a link to another video right here on another colleague of mine who very successfully deployed several businesses using this technique that I'm going to share with you. But what I want to say here is that a lot of times we look at it from the perspective of the linear process that we have to take to get someone from point A to point B. Whereas there is a substantial benefit to looking at it from, once again, the pain points or aspirations of the other person, and basically helping them to understand how going through your process, going through your certification, is going to help them alleviate those pain points, achieve those goals. Today, in today's day and age, once again, it's not so much about personal development, it's about personal deployment. To take it back to that Marine Corps example, when the Marines are in their initial training, they're getting that training. After that, they'll go to some school where they'll potentially get more training. It's not until they actually get their orders and they go out on their deployment with those orders that they are actually putting that training into practice. And that is what is missing in today's day and age. It's not the personal development, it's the personal deployment. If you can make your certification do that, then you've won the battle. Thanks so much. Have a great day.